welcome to the eighth episode of Bhavika and Laura's Chat Show. Today we have an awesome guest with us, and it's Jared. Hey, Jared, how are you?
I'm doing good, Bawika. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Just to introduce Jared, he works as a customer success manager at Ideals. He's also a podcast host at Founders and Mentors podcast. Oh my God, Jared, then you must be meeting so many guests, right, on your podcast.
I am, yes. You included. Your episode will be live soon. So it was a pleasure meeting you, and I'm happy to be on your podcast now.
Awesome, awesome. Happy to help. Great. So today, Jad is going to actually introduce us to a topic which is called how should you move into customer success as a
Mhm.
newbie or as a new customer success manager or as an enthusiast. What steps should you take in order to enter the domain of customer success? Which is a very interesting topic, I must say, because there's so many people reaching out to us on LinkedIn and asking how should we get into this profile, what should we work
Yep.
towards, what should I add on to my profile, which kind of certificates should I look on to, which is of course a wonderful topic to talk to here, Jared. Just to introduce you to the format of the show, first of all, we'll start with you. We'll give you the stage to actually talk more about on this topic. What are your thoughts? What are your views? We would love to hear that.
Mhm.
Secondly, we'll go with the rapid fire round, which would be rapid. We expect your answers to be short and crisp, but we do not have any hamper for you, sadly.
It's all good.
Next, we have a dilemma situation where it's a puzzling question, and we want you to help us with that. Help those CSMs in such situations. What would be your take on such questions?
Mhm.
And the final round is the question of the day, which would be the final round. Works well?
Sounds great.
Awesome. Let's go ahead with this then. Coming to the first round of this chat show, which is we want you to take the stage entirely, Jared. What are your thoughts on a new person who, if he wants to really come into CS, wants to really be a CSM, what he or she should be doing? What's the most important thing a person should be doing?
Well, the most important thing you should be doing if you want to get into any space, not just customer success, is network, network, network. And with customer success in particular, if you're not on LinkedIn, you are way behind. So first thing you got to do is go on LinkedIn and then connect with as many customer success professionals as you possibly can. I'm connected with hundreds just because I've been in the space for over 3 years now. So there's so many incredible people out there on LinkedIn that are sharing incredible content, like you, Bawika, and many other people as well. I consider myself someone who produces great CS content, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of people out there. So connect with as many people as you can, read their content, comment, send them DMs, ask them questions. That is the most important thing anyone can be doing, is leveraging LinkedIn on a consistent, I would say, daily basis.
Right, right. And Jared, since you mentioned about following the, of course, the thought leaders or people who are really creating content on day-to-day basis
Mhm.
on LinkedIn, would you like to name a few so that we can actually help the
Yeah.
people who are finding the job or maybe moving into the CS domain?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I would say, off the top of my head, Miranda Dekonsky, Christy Falterusso, Nick Meta, Erica, oh gosh, I'm probably going to mispronounce her last name, Erica Valeriel, I believe is her last name, Ashna Patel, Brandon Sestrone. Um, those are probably the ones that come up. I consider all of them friends of mine, and they produce incredible content. So I would say start with them for sure.
I agree. I agree with you. I even follow them, and it's
Mm-hmm.
always a pleasure to actually read such insightful posts by them. And awesome. Thank you for letting us
Yep.
know that. Apart from this, Jared, what do you feel a person who has no clue about customer success, like he's really new to CS world.
Mm-hmm.
Apart from networking, what else can he do to build the name?
Yeah. Well, you mentioned at the beginning certifications, and I mean, I'm not a hiring manager. I'm not involved in hiring CSM. So I
Mhm.
don't think there are people that are like, well, we need someone with this certification, right?
Mhm.
But taking these certification courses,
Mhm.
obviously there's so many great resources out there as far as certifications where you can learn all these things about customer success and the day-to-day of a CSM and what's expected of a CSM.
Right.
So I would definitely look into certification courses. I usually recommend either success coaching or practical CSM. Both have both have multiple certification courses, different levels,
Yeah.
all with great pieces of knowledge and things that you can learn from them. So certification courses are great to learn and to prove that, like, hey, look, I want to step into the space. I'm ready. I'm doing doing the work to get in. So there's that. And also there are some great books. I have a couple on my bookshelf right here. The Customer Success Professional's Handbook. Every CSM needs to have that on their bookshelf. The Outcome Generation, the Customer Success Pioneer, Startup's Guide to Customer Success. There's so many out there. So start loading your bookshelf with customer success related books, and certifications, I think, is a great start to really start learning and getting into the space.
Right. I agree here. One question, Jared, that there are many people who have asked me as well, and I would love to tell my views, but I would want to hear first your views on that. Like you mentioned about certifications, there are of course many available. Do you think like it's mandatory or it's good to have a certification?
I'm speaking from someone who doesn't hire CSMs, but I would say it's not mandatory. Like I said, I don't think there are hiring managers looking for CSMs with certain certifications, but I think it's a really good thing to have, not just for yourself, like learning these things, but it does show hiring managers that, look, I may not have customer success specific experience, but look, I'm willing to do the work to get into the space.
I agree. I pretty much have the same thoughts here. What about you, Lotte? Do you have any specific thoughts?
Yeah, it's always a good idea to show how much effort you want to put into something, and it always gives a good impression. I agree, it's not mandatory. Certifications these days aren't mandatory at all anymore, even in IT. If you want to do something, if you make a project and show that you want to put the effort in it, like you say, that counts for much more than a certification. So indeed, willing to put in the effort, reading about it, being on top of everything that's going on in the CS world and community. That I think is the most important.
Right. Yeah, very much there. Like we all agree on that point. Great.
Yeah.
Apart from this, Jared, if we talk about blogs, so should a CSM or an aspiring CSM, should they be reading a lot of blogs there out, or like being like doing a networking thing on LinkedIn and getting connected to the contents of these great thought leaders is enough? Or are there any blogs that you really want to recommend to these budding CSMs?
Yeah, well, I'd be remiss if I didn't recommend my blog, Customer Success Whisperer. I'm sure I'll link it in the description or something. But yeah, so I started a blog really just to put my ideas out there. And there's a lot of great blogs out there. I usually reference other blogs in my posts and things like that. So HubSpot has a great blog, Client Success, Practical CSM. There's a lot out there. And really what I recommend with blogs is, yes, like look them up, read the post, and then connect with the person that wrote the post. Like, hey, I love this blog post about this and that. I'd love to talk to you more about it. So don't just read them, but actually like go on LinkedIn and then connect with the person, share the blog post, tag the person, like, hey, I loved what so-and-so said about this subject. These are my thoughts on it. Here's the blog post. I think if you go the extra mile and like start connecting with these people and sharing their content, it'll really open up a lot of doors for you.
Yeah, that's true. I also have a question about all of this, because we now already mentioned a lot of resources that they can look into to get to know more about CS and the whole community in the world. But there are so many resources and so many things you can do. How do you keep everything organized and make sure that you keep your direction and that you are doing the most important things?
That's a great question. So I'm a minimalist, just kind of with how I live my life with almost everything. And there was a time, I think late 2020, where I was involved in so many different communities, following so much different customer success related content, and I had to really just dial it back because it was just a little too much. All these Slack channels, because again, there's a wealth, an embarrassment of riches when it comes to CS content and CS resources. So I would say just, pick and choose, there's no problem like, getting out of a Slack channel or unfollowing a certain newsletter. But again, you're never going to have too little, you're never going to have too little amount of CS resources out there. Did that make any sense what I just said? You get what I'm saying? Sorry, it's early where I'm at, so I'm gathering my thoughts.
Right. Also, here one thing that I would want to mention is something about Open Book of Customer Success, which is a great resource. Like there are so many things they've mentioned, and it's all organized. All the information you can see there if you really want to get on. But I agree with you, Jared, like sometimes it becomes too much, specifically if we talk about these pandemic times. too much digital intake, it anyways causes harm. So sometimes you feel like, okay, stepping back and maybe being in a place which is actually required and not just piling up the resources. Okay, I'll read this blog as well, I read this Slack channel content as well, and it will become too much, and
it does.
the person would not be able to do anything. So
I will say this though, if I could put a pin in, give a shout out to CS Insider. I highly recommend anyone wanting to get into customer success to subscribe to CS Insider. I'm actually involved in it, but it's an incredible resource. They compile really everything happening in the industry in one newsletter. So check out CS Insider if you're not involved with anything right now.
Yes, I agree. They of course put wonderful content on the newsletters, and it's so wonderful to see the entire customer success content that gets really wrapped up in that one newsletter, and you get to see what's all is happening around the LinkedIn and what all people are posting, which is a great resource, of course. And yes, apart from all this, our chat show is also a wonderful resource to actually listen to such great thought leaders like Jared, Christy, and there were a couple of others who had joined us on the shows. And I, of course, these days I'm hearing a lot from the people, and they keep pinging me that yes, it's a great resource. We're learning something new, and I'm recommending my juniors also to subscribe to the channel or to maybe hear to these interviews, which is a great news. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Great. And Jared, apart from all these resources, there's one question that was lingering there in my mind. How important it is for an aspiring or a budding CSM to create that personal presence or that brand presence, personal brand basically on LinkedIn. Do you think it's important, or just connected with these thought leaders or with the people, of course, in CS is enough? Or do you think you should create your brand on LinkedIn?
Yes, you should definitely create your brand on LinkedIn. You don't have to be posting every single day.
Right.
I actually don't recommend that, but I do recommend creating some sort of presence, creating some sort of a brand on LinkedIn. I'll give you a reason why I say this. I actually interviewed Miranda Dukonsky on my podcast about last month, and she's the chief customer officer at Swiftly. So she has hired hundreds of CSMs in her career, like not just at where she is right now, but at other companies. Right. And she says that every time she is in the process of hiring a CSM, she looks at their LinkedIn, what they posted, what they commented on, things that they've liked. And she uses that as a deciding factor for hiring somebody. And she's like, I'm not alone in this. Most hiring managers, especially in customer success, are doing this. So make sure that you are creating good, posting good content, liking good content, commenting, bringing value to your community in some way. And hiring managers will take notice of that for sure.
Right. I agree here. Even Miranda was there on our show as well. And she of course mentioned about us too. Of course, we were talking on a different topic, but like you mentioned, it is very important for the aspiring CSM to actually build that presence in terms of maybe commenting on simple posts also, or maybe sharing your views when you have you watched an episode, or you maybe heard something on the podcast. Share your views out there. There are people who are actually putting their summaries. What have they learned out of this podcast? What have they learned out of this chat show? Which is a great way to connect with the people and also enhance your learning.
That's what I did. That when I started like building my brand in customer success, I would literally just share my thoughts on podcasts and blogs and books that I've been reading that pertain to customer success. And now I have a really incredible network of people that I not only consider acquaintances or colleagues, but friends. So it definitely it starts with that, and just build off of that with compound interest. Great things will happen.
Agreed. When I also started like 1.5 years ago on LinkedIn, I did not have a LinkedIn account before then, and somebody recommended to me, oh my God, you're not on LinkedIn. And then I was like, okay, let's sign up. And then when I started with this CS community, and I met so many great people with this community, and I must say that this community is really giving in nature, which is the best thing about this community.
Absolutely.
And that's why we all love in giving back to the community, whether it's Lotte, whether it's me, or whether it's anyone else. If you talk about CS Insider, there's Ashna, Brandon doing so great stuff. There's so many other people doing a lot of great stuff to actually give back to the community, which is a very kind gesture. Yeah. And I'm proud to be a part of this community.
Yeah, the community really wants everyone to have success. Not only the customers, but everyone in the community too.
It's who we are as people. So it works out.
Awesome. Okay. With that great note, let's move ahead with our second round, which is the rapid fire round. Okay. Over to you, Lotte.
All right. So the first question, you already mentioned the networking and all the things you have to do to successfully network. But what is the biggest mistake that people make when they are networking?
Well, outside of customer success, if you're networking just to sell something or pitch someone something, that's horrible. But pertaining to customer success, if you are networking and within the first like encounter with somebody, you're asking for a job, just don't do that. Do not ask for a job when you're connecting with somebody. Say, hey, if I'm interested in working for your company, if you have any CSM positions, I'd be open to applying. But don't say, hey, can I have a job? Or I'm desperate, I need something. Because even if you are desperate, like, you know, you need to use networking as a time to really build relationships, and eventually good things will happen because of that.
All right. Yes, great advice. So you also already mentioned that everybody should have a LinkedIn account if you want to get into the CS world. But how and where can you find the biggest CS community? Can you find a special group on LinkedIn or?
Yeah, I think one of the best communities out there, it's a free community. It's Gain, Grow, Retain. Yeah. It is a Christy Falteruso. You guys have had her on. She's one of the founders of it. Yeah. Great community. They have weekly office hours, and you can learn from some of the best in the industry. So if you're not on Gain, Grow, Retain, create your free account. It is definitely worth it.
Agreed. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Moving ahead with the next question. Which are the useful skills you can already have acquired in another job or experience?
So basically what I tell people that are trying to get into customer success is, you know, you got to be good with people, right? And even if you haven't been like in an account management role, whether you've been in sales, marketing, finance, HR, like you've worked with people. So leverage that. How have you worked with either clients or your colleagues, you know, executives? How have you worked with them that would position you as a great customer success manager? So really, if you've had any experience working with people, which if you've had a job, you've had that experience, use that in your search for a CSM job.
That's really good advice. I want to add something about it. Even if you have only internal experience internally in a company, you can still consider other departments as your customers. I've been working in budgeting, and I had to compound the budget of different departments. They were my customers too, so that you can also use.
Well, another great part about customer success is that it's about breaking down silos and working with other departments. So if you had experience collaborating with other departments, use that, because that is so important for a successful customer success, not just individual, but team and organization.
Yes. Right. Exactly. Very right. Some great points. Okay. Moving ahead with the last question of rapid fire round. Where is the best place to find jobs in CS?
Definitely LinkedIn. The last two jobs I've had 2 jobs in customer success, the one I'm at now and the one I had previously, found them both on LinkedIn. So definitely LinkedIn, because then you can actually connect with people at that company, connect with recruiters and like talk to them. But ZipRecruiter, Indeed, Glassdoor, those are also good resources, but I'd say LinkedIn should be your primary source of finding jobs.
Yes, agreed. Great. So Jared, you've passed with flying colors. I don't have anything to give it to you right away, but yeah, any day I meet you in person, you'll definitely have a hamper from my end.
Sounds great.
Awesome. Going ahead with the next round, which is dilemma situation. Over to you, Latif.
Yes, if you are looking for your first job in CS, you have all different kinds of industries, all different kinds of companies, big companies, small companies. What would you recommend people to search in which kind of industries and which kinds of companies to search for their first job as a CSM?
I would say definitely focus on the tech and software space. That's really where customer success is thriving and really on fire at this point. It is in other industries, which is great, but if you really want to get a great experience and I would say even an authentic experience with customer success, focus on tech and software for sure.
Right. And would you go for small companies or bigger companies?
I've heard it said, I mean, it really depends, honestly. Like I would say, just take any opportunity that comes to you. But I've heard it said multiple times that if you want security, work for a big corporation. If you want to make an impact, work for a startup or a smaller company. So there's benefits to both, pros and cons to both. from my experience, like I've worked for mid-sized companies, but if you're like a recent college graduate and you really want to make an impact, if you really want to learn all you can in a very short amount of time, find a startup for sure.
Because startups are really aggressive. Like there's
They
so much
are.
of, and you have to wear multiple hats. Like
You do.
someday you'll have to be in maybe marketing, and someday you're also doing pre-sales. And because it's such a small
Mhm.
team, and you have to actually manage a lot many things together. And that thing, like those experiences, teach you a lot. A great thing.
They do.
So I
They do.
agree with you there. Of course, yes, agreed. Okay, great. Let's go ahead with the last round, which of course I did not want to reach on to because we are having such a wonderful conversation with you, Jared. But sadly, I have to. Okay, the question of the day: how can you prepare best for your first day in CS job?
So basically, like this person has they have a job and it's their first. Okay, got it.
Day, yeah.
I would say the weeks leading up to your first job, I would say research the target customer of the company that you're going to be working for, and then reach out to somebody who fits that description. Talk to them. Say, hey, can I have 10, 15, 30 minutes of your time just to talk to you about, why you use products like the one that I'm going to be representing, why you work with companies that I'm going to be working for. And if you are able to get some time with most likely you'll know somebody or you'll be able to connect with somebody. Right. But if you can get this time, you will be light years ahead of the other CSMs that may be starting with you. And you'll be able to then you can focus your time on really learning about the product when you start, but then you'll have that base knowledge of why customers actually use this product, the issues that they may face with it, the use cases that they may have. So if you're able to really research the target customer and talk with someone who fits that description, you will be set up for success when you start your first customer success job for sure.
I agree. I would also like to mention here one thing. When you get into your first job, of course, first day, it is, of course, very tense also. Sometimes there are mixed feelings, right? You're tense also, happy also because you've got a job, yay. And everyone is really happy at home as well, friends as well, which is a great news. When you actually land onto your first job, it's very important that you need to show that proactivity, which I always believe in. I understand the company will train you, the team leads will train you, of course, but if you show that proactivity on your end, you are also highlighting one of the most important skill of a CSM, which is being proactive. So
100%.
Right. You need to be proactive in order to understand the company's business, in order to know your stakeholders, who is the CEO, who is the manager, who is the manager's head. And because when there'll be problems, you need to know what person does what. Like you should be reaching out to the correct person. Otherwise, for a marketing problem, you might reach out to a support analyst or something like that, which would create hiccups. So I think you need to be proactive out there. You need to go out there and tell that, yes, I'm here in this company and I would be proactive in getting that knowledge from you. Because I always say learning is always two ways. It's not always like a person would come and teach you something. You also need to have that ability, capability, and proactiveness in order to gain that content from the other person.
Yeah, I actually wrote a blog about this in my blog, Customer Success Whisperer. It was the top 3 qualities every successful CSM needs to have, and it's be empathetic, be proactive, and be an outrageously great communicator. Everything else will fall into place, but if you can have these 3 traits as your foundation as a CSM, you'll be in good shape, in my opinion.
Right. I agree. I definitely agree here. Anything here, Lottie, you want to add to us here?
No, I think it's a very good roundup of exactly what a CSM, what are the most important traits of a CSM. So yeah, I think with this we got to the end of our CS chat show for this episode. So yeah, I found it very interesting. I wish I had a resource like this to explain me how I could get into customer success. So Jared, thank you very much for joining us in this episode. And I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's been great, guys. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thank you.